Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first webinar in a series that is designed by the Council of State Governments to help inform and empower all of you as new members of the legislature to take full advantage of how you can make an impact in your new role in public service. I recognize that many people come to the legislature from having served on city councils, township boards, school boards, and county commissions. And so the knowledge that you have about being part of a deliberative body informs your work in the legislature as well. But I want to let you know just a little bit about the Council of State Governments. First of all, we're supported by the states. We're governed by the states, and we're trusted by state officials because we work for you. Our priorities are set by the members of state legislatures, courts, and executive branch agencies. Our president is a governor. This year, it's Hawaii Governor Josh Green. And our national chair rotates among our 4 regions. This year, it's a Midwesterner who's been nominated and ultimately elected by the Executive Committee of the Council of State Governments, but it's L.G. Sims, a state senator from Illinois. We have 4 national officers, 1 from each of our regions. CSG is designed to be a regional forum, and so as you think about how should I interact with the Council of State Governments, my best advice is to say start at the region. Midwesterners have the CSG Midwest office in Chicago. Our Southern office is in Atlanta. Our Western office is in Sacramento. And our Eastern office is in New York. CSG has over 400 employees in over 30 states, with a budget approaching almost $80 million a year. All of those resources are dedicated to doing what we've been doing for 90 years, connecting, informing, inspiring, and empowering state leaders to serve the common good. We do that through many kinds of programs, activities, and services. We have 11 affiliated organizations of state officials that are staffed by CSG employees. At our regional level, there's leadership development programs, annual meetings that are held each summer, opportunities to serve on a committee appointed by the presiding officers in your particular chamber. So whether you're a policy wonk that wants to go deep on a substantive issue, whether you just like the camaraderie of getting to know your peers in other states, developing friendships and trusted relationships, or whether you're interested in developing new leadership skills, all of those things are possible and accessible through CSG. The bottom line is, we're always just an email or a phone call away. We want to be adaptable and flexible to serve your needs. So whether it's a research request or you'd just like to know what's going on in the other states, how does my state stack up? And what can I do to learn from the laboratories of democracy to pass a bill or create a policy in my state that will better serve the citizens that you've been elected to represent? For 12 years, I served in the Kansas legislature, so I know firsthand the sacrifices that you make. But I also know that feeling you have when you walk into your legislative chamber, proud of the opportunity to represent the citizens of your state, and really grateful for the chance you have to help craft the future of your state. So let me just end by saying how grateful I am that you're a person of purpose who wants to pursue your public service and make a difference for the people who sent you to your state capital. At CSG, we consider it a great honor to work for you and to serve you. And we're particularly proud of 2 great friends who are going to provide the content for today's webinar. We want to say thank you to them. And they're going to talk to you a little bit today about how nonpartisan staff can help you achieve your policy goals. And certainly in my experience, nonpartisan staff were invaluable to helping me better understand the complexities of public policy issues and to give me the information, context, and background I needed to understand public policy issues that I just really didn't have much of a knowledge base about. They became friends and trusted advisors, and I know you'll be encouraged to seek them out as a result of today's webinar. Let me turn it over to one of our leadership development staff members, someone that I respect greatly and who has worked very hard to engage our members in a number of programs and services to enrich their skills and to empower them to be better leaders. Dexter Horn. Dexter, we'll turn it over to you and just simply say thank you all for tuning in today, and we look forward to engaging you in all of the CSG programs and services, both at the regional and national level going forward. Thanks, Dexter.
Yeah, Thank you so much, David. As he mentioned, my name is Dexter Horn, and I'm a leadership development specialist at the Council of State Governments. And as David mentioned, CSG is here to serve you in a variety of ways. The leadership development programming, this being one of them, is just one of the ways that we want to help you become the best legislator that you can be. And we're joined today in this particular webinar with two distinguished CSG members who are going to share their expertise on working effectively with nonpartisan legislative staff. We hope that in the process of having the conversation that we're going to have, they're going to help you understand how to leverage the staff in your own respective states, and then help you hit the ground running so that you can serve your constituents effectively using that expertise that you have at your disposal. So let me introduce our panelists at this point. First, we have Jay Hartz, who is the director of the Joint Legislative Research Commission, or LRC, in Kentucky. Jay brings to his role nearly 25 years of legislative experience. In this nonpartisan position, he oversees the LRC staff and guides the organization's mission of supporting the state legislature. Prior to his appointment, Jay served as the Deputy Chief of Staff to Senate President Robert Stivers and as the Director of Legislative Operations. His deep understanding of legislative processes was developed during his 2 terms as Chief Clerk of the Senate, where he served as the Chamber's Chief Administration Officer. And then also joining us from Alaska is Jessica Geary, Executive Director of the Alaska Legislative Affairs Agency, or LAA. Jessica has served as Executive Director since 2018, bringing over 23 years of agency experience to this position. Her career path includes 7 years as finance manager and time as deputy executive director before her current appointment. Under her leadership, the LAA provides nonpartisan support to the Alaska state legislature through 3 divisions and 11 sections, overseeing administrative functions, security, technology, and legal services. So these 2 are very, very busy, up to a lot in their respective states, and we're very honored and privileged really to have them in this conversation with us today. So as David mentioned, I want to echo thank you all for being here. I'll also mention that Jessica and Jay know each other. We're all friends here. And so we're going to have an open and honest conversation about the work that we do. I'll also mention at the top that I used to be a nonpartisan staff member. CSG is nonpartisan, but I also worked for the Legislative Research Commission in Kentucky in the past. So this is a particularly fun topic for me. So this is how this is going to work. I'm going to ask our panelists a couple of questions that we have discussed prior to the webinar starting. And then I would like for you all who are on the call to, as you think of something, go ahead and drop your questions into the chat box. At the end of our conversation, towards the end of this webinar, we will pull your questions out of the chat box and ask them as well. So just go ahead and put those in there as you think of them. I'm going to start with something fundamental. I think that in our pre-call, before we started this, we were having a conversation about how the challenges that you all face in state government may change from year to year. But one thing is for sure is that if you're a new legislator, you probably haven't had a lot of experience with nonpartisan staff before that point, where you take your position in your state government. So I would like for our panelists to just sort of talk about and explain to all of us in the audience, what do you see is the role of a nonpartisan legislative staff member, and what can legislators gain from working with you? And we'll start with you, Jay, and then I'll give Jessica a chance to answer the same question.
Thank you, Dexter. I'd like to build off a little something that David said during his remarks about his relationship with nonpartisan staff, and particularly pick up on the concept of not necessarily friendship, but confidants, counselors. I don't know where you are. Many of you are in your careers as elected officials, but oftentimes elected officials can feel like all of their relationships are transactional relationships, meaning everyone who comes to them wants something from them. If they're providing them with information, they're providing them with information that's somehow shaded to put whatever they want from you in the best possible light. And I think at the end of the day, if you can recognize that nonpartisan staff are perhaps the only people you're going to encounter during your time in the legislature, they're there solely to serve you, to provide services to you for your benefit, not for their own aggrandizement or to get something out of it, but out of their dedication to being part of the legislative process. So I think the easy answer to that question is you actually have someone working for you. In the LRC, we often market our nonpartisan legislative staff services as "you've got staff," which isn't particularly original, but it sticks with people. New legislators will sometimes feel like I'm just going to do it all myself, and at some point the cascade of constituent phone calls, constituent emails, committee meeting notices, bills to read, they just get overwhelmed. And then they start to recognize, well, it's kind of nice that I've got somebody who is there to help me be successful and not getting anything out of it other than helping them be successful. So you've got staff is an easy way to think about it.
I know. I feel like I'm going to have to reuse that catchphrase. I didn't realize that was the saying up there. You've got staff. So Jessica, is there a catchy catchphrase that you all use in Alaska?
Well, it's a great answer, Jay. And I guess just to build on, of course, we look at them as staff. We often say, we work for all 60 members. We have a 60-member legislature here in Alaska, and in our opinion, the really important part in our role is to bring a strong foundation for effective and durable policy work. Legislators come in and they bring their ideas, they bring their passion, and basically what inspired their constituents to elect them. And we kind of see our role as providing that foundation. We have the institutional knowledge, the experience. We can help members bring those big ideas to fruition, tempered, of course, within the existing structures of current law and regulations, et cetera. So we really see our role as we're here to help accomplish all that's possible within the system under which we operate. So that's kind of like a little different flavor, but we certainly see ourselves as you have staff. If your staff, that your personal staff, if they're not helping you, we're here. We're here to help make your jobs easier. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's well put. So you've got staff, but we're also here to be of assistance to you, to all 60 of you in Alaska's case. And just sticking with you, Jessica, if you feel comfortable sharing, is there an example of something that you and your staff have done recently, or that just sort of comes to mind when you think about how you can affect a member's job in a positive way from one of the recent legislative sessions?
Well, I would say just, daily, this is something that we're constantly helping, whether it's coming up with a bill draft or making, amendments to that bill to make it function the way that that legislator intends for it to function. One of the big projects that comes to mind that we just completed, which was a benefit to the legislature as well as the public, with Alaska being so geographically vast, we have a little bit of a unique job in that the constituents can't necessarily just come to the Capitol and watch their legislature in action. So we've built out a network that enables constituents to participate from all across Alaska. We have a network of they're called legislative information offices, and constituents can go in and testify and interact with their legislature. And so with changing technology, we just recently underwent a massive project to upgrade the audio visual systems throughout the Capitol committee rooms and also our chambers. And so that was one, we really had to work with the legislators and the staff to troubleshoot issues with our overall goal was to increase reliability, decrease downtime, modernize and improve efficiency. It took many, many, many months, but we're finally enjoying the benefits of the new system, and constituents are able to interact with their legislature in a way that wouldn't otherwise be possible.
Yeah, that's a great example. So not just helping the legislators directly, but making sure that their constituents are able to participate in state government, making sure that they're able to if not physically be in the state capitol, still have their voices heard there is extremely important. And an example that I had not thought of. So thank you, Jessica, for sharing. Jay, did you want to share any example for how you've been able to work with legislators in the nonpartisan role?
Sure. I don't know. I could come up with an example, but we are under a certain amount of confidentiality in our nonpartisan roles here in Kentucky of revealing things. So I'll do more sort of a general example. It would not be unusual for a member to receive a call from a constituent with a problem. That legislator would present that problem to our research staff. They would determine if the problem exists, and then if it does exist, is it a flaw in the statute? Is it a flaw in a regulation? Is it a flaw in how the agency is applying their operations? Report back to the legislator about what their research has shown. If the legislator decides they want to make a change, that information would go to our bill drafters. They would draft some legislation to fix that problem. It would then make its way through the legislative process and change the law or change the reg or change the way the agency operates. And then at the end, our public information would send out a press release letting everybody know about why that happened and what it's going to fix. So we're sort of set up, we're sort of a soups to nuts sort of organization that phone call comes in and problem gets fixed, and then we let people know about it at the end. So it happens all the time. It probably happened today. We passed some bills today, probably happened today. So, but there you go.
Right, something for you to worry about as soon as the call is over at 2:45.
Yeah.
Right. Well, moving on to our next topic, as David mentioned when he was doing his introduction and his experience as a state legislator in the Kansas state government, but probably many people's experience across the nation is that when you first enter the legislature as a newly elected official, you have so much that you have to learn very, very quickly in order to do the job that you were elected to do. And so I understand that nonpartisan staff has very specific ways that they serve state legislators, but from your all's perspective, what can a new legislator do to get support from you all and just learning how does this government work? Like, how can I immediately get involved in state government as a new person here? And Jessica, we'll start with you on this one.
Certainly. Just from my state's perspective, for new members, we hold a multi-day academy, which is specifically designed for incoming freshman legislators to help quickly get them up to speed and learn the essential information before they arrive to the Capitol. And then we do a part 2 of that academy once they arrive. It's definitely a few intense days of training just to really get them up to speed. If your own state's nonpartisan support agency doesn't offer such an academy, I would encourage you to meet with your LSA director to learn from them how their staff can help you. Really encourage you to get to know the agency, the people in the agency, and the services they offer. I know every state operates a little bit differently, but generally speaking, it's my understanding there is a nonpartisan support agency for all state legislatures, whatever that might look like. I just encourage you to get familiar. I know entering the legislative arena can feel like drinking from a fire hose. So just don't be scared to ask for help. No question is a dumb question. Use all the tools at your disposal and just know that their sole purpose is to support you and whatever staff you may have.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Jay, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. To build on what Jessica said, I think what nonpartisan staff can provide you is institutional knowledge. How does the institution actually function? And related to that, I always encourage new legislators to focus on ends, not means, at the very beginning. you know, there's the Kentucky Constitution. Each chamber has their own rules. There's Mason's Manual. We're also a state agency, so there's procurement laws we have to abide by, and there's lots of things that exist that if you decide this is the way it has to happen and it can't happen that way, people get frustrated. But if you start the conversation of this is what I would like to accomplish, what are the different methods by which I can accomplish it, then you can be provided options, and then you can choose the option that make the most sense. So you know, I often start off a conversation with a member of it's not my job to tell you no, but so in this instance, the way you want to do it, you know, I can't, you know, I recognize that you need new blinds in your office, but you know, you need approval from the speaker for me to expend money to do anything in your office. So institutional knowledge and focus on ends, not means. And I'd also point out here that the members who know how the procedure works, particularly the rules of their chambers and how they operate when passing bills, they tend to be pretty successful. So read the rules, understand the rules, find the nonpartisan staff, particularly in the clerk's office, that might know how they're applied, and start to develop a working relationship with them so you can ask them questions.
Read the rules, know the rules. I think that's a very good thing to live by there. And I love the blinds example. That's another one of those things that you don't really think about until you are in the office and you're like, oh yeah, this is not working for me. I need blinds. But I do want to sit with this question for a little bit longer. Is there a time during the legislative calendar where it makes the most sense to ask that question to nonpartisan staff of, here's what I want to accomplish, how do I accomplish it? Is there a time, is there like the summer or even during session when that question may be answered more productively?
Well, you know, one of my first bosses told me it's always better to make friends with somebody before there's a problem, because then you aren't coming when the problem already exists. But if we're in session and a member needs something, to the extent we can, the appropriate person will drop everything and go talk to them about what they need. So we're very focused on members' schedules, not staff schedules. So if you need something, if you yelp for help, we will come find you. But the length and quality of answer you're going to get is somewhat dependent on the amount of time that you have before the thing happens. So you know, during the summer is better, but if something has presented itself right before a bill is going to go on the floor to get voted on, we'll do the best we can in the amount of time that's allotted.
So yeah, the best time to solve a problem was yesterday. The second best time is now.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. Jessica, did you want to add anything to that?
Not a thing. I completely agree with everything Jay said, and then what you added on at the end. Yes.
Well, perfect. So because now we have to go into the more sticky part of our conversation. I think, as David cued for us, a very big and common challenge when it comes to doing business with nonpartisan staff is this perception that some people in the public may have, and even some state legislators may have, that the nonpartisan staff may be secretly holding partisan biases. So that's what we're going to turn our conversation to now. I mentioned at the top of our call that I also used to work for the Kentucky LRC as a nonpartisan staff member. And I just know from my experience, it was very much expected that when we were not on the job and we were out doing our, regular civilian lives, that we would still avoid public events or, political events as much as possible. There was a lot of beautiful things about working for the state government that I do miss. One of the things that I miss the most is that it gives you an excuse to tell your friends that you can't go door knocking, which of course we all hate doing. But again, just to hold on to that perception as like, no, I take my professional reputation seriously as a nonpartisan person, not doing political work. But from your all's perspective, and as leaders in your nonpartisan organizations, what do you tell your staff to help them shield against that misconception that they may have partisan biases? Jay, we'll start with you on this one.
Dexter, I got to go first last time. I'll defer to
Okay.
Jessica.
That works with me.
All right. Well, yeah, this is definitely, it's a tricky one, and especially when everything is so polarized. And I think we all feel that, especially at the national level, and it trickles down to all of our state levels in a big way. I think being an agency with integrity and allowing time for new members to recognize that, we start out by laying the foundation with, we have a staff political activity policy, which explicitly details what's allowed and not allowed by nonpartisan staff. And we really have to work together for every single member, no matter our personal beliefs. And the last thing we want is for somebody to think that we're not able to do our jobs because we are not supportive of whatever that particular member's policy goals are, beliefs or whatnot. So we just work really hard to establish trust with members, because of our actions are really based on leadership positions, not partisan bias. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, it gets messy because oftentimes leadership is the member. Right now, we happen to have two bipartisan coalitions. That's not always the case. Oftentimes the minority feels singled out, and that's the nature of it. We just really try to provide equal support as appropriate to all members, and just reiterate that we support all of them the same, regardless of what their political beliefs are.
And Jessica, as a part of like the onboarding for new employees, understanding those very explicit rules about political activity, I'm assuming it's a part of their training.
Correct. Yeah. And it really starts at the interview. I mean, it's in the job posting. We reiterate it in the interview. We even go as far as to look at social media and make sure that there's not any red flags out there. It's really important to us.
Yeah. And Jay, I would like for you to respond to that as well. And then if you want to add to your thoughts, just the other side of that coin, how can new legislators be encouraged to view nonpartisan staff as neutral partners in the legislative process?
Dexter, as you've referenced, our setup is similar to Alaska's, and we have a section in our personnel policy manual about what it means to be nonpartisan. We ask some pretty pointed questions through the interview process to gauge to whether or not someone's actually willing to leave their own personal feelings in their car when they come in every morning. We encourage staff that if they have a question about if I do this, how might it be viewed, to contact either our general counsel or me, and let's just talk about it. Usually it's okay, but we might offer some guidance on how to make sure that there isn't that there aren't any misunderstandings. There's that word. I'll get it out. And I think Jessica's point about the people, members in the majority, and this is R or D, members in the majority will think that nonpartisan staff are secretly in cahoots with the minority and out to get them and leaking what they're working on, and members of the minority, being that R or D, think that the nonpartisan staff only work for the majority chairman because the majority chairman always get what they want, and they can never, seems like they can't ever get their amendments on time, or it's ruled out of order for some particular reason. And I can assure you that all the nonpartisan staff that I have encountered all across the United States of America take that nonpartisanship very seriously. And I always say that I think it's really special that there are talented people that are so dedicated to the concept that we have 138 legislators in Kentucky, that we have a system where there's 138 normal people that are elected by the nearly 4 million people in Kentucky to come to Frankfurt and make decisions, that we don't have a king, we don't have a potentate, we have a General Assembly. And their dedication to helping those 138 people hear from their constituents, and make the best decisions that they can in the limited amount of time that our Constitution allots for that. The fact that they're willing to put their personal inclinations in their trunk when they come to work every morning and do everything they can to help legislators be successful is pretty special. And so we take all that really seriously, and I take any violations of that even more seriously. So that's why we try to have an interactive process with staff of, if you have a question about what you can or can't do, let's talk about it before you actually do it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good policy to have, because there's always going to be those areas in the margins, in the gray area, where you think you can get away with something. Just go ahead and ask the leadership first to make sure that you can keep that reputation of nonpartisanship. I do want to push this a little bit more on this question, and this will be my final question. So if those of you who are joining and tuning in want to drop any questions into the chat box, now is a great time to do so. But let's say I am a state legislator. Jessica, Jay, we're going to pretend like we all are in the same state. I come to you and I say, hey, this is a great report that you provided on X potential policy, but I'm not feeling this outcome. Could you change the data a little bit so that it reflects the outcome that I, Dexter Horn, would really like to see? How would you all coach both your staff on how to respond to this? Or if you were the person who's getting that, how would you respond to the state legislator to keep that firewall strong?
Go ahead, Jessica.
I know that's a hard question.
Thank you for that, Jay. Well, it is a hard question, because we get asked that daily, right? Like, we're constantly drafting bills, providing research reports that maybe don't say the exact information that the member wants it to say. And we just have to work really hard to say, drafting and researching are two different things, obviously, right? We have some different rules that outline how the bills are drafted, and so that's a little bit easier one to explain. But research, we use nonpartisan tools. We have our resources that we know are consistently unbiased, and we rely on that data. So that's what we use and what we cite in our reports. And if we just encourage them, if they disagree or they wanted to say something else, in Alaska they all have personal staff, so we just really encourage them, if they want the outcome to be different than what we provided, they need to ask their personal staff to do anything that's sort of outside of that. So I know not all states maybe have that luxury, but we certainly do and use it a lot.
Yeah, there's a place and a resource for everything. We can only give you what we can give you.
Yep.
Jay?
So it's similar in Kentucky. I'm blessed in many ways, and one of the ways that I'm blessed is I have a speaker and Senate president who are really committed to making sure that the research projects of the Legislative Research Commission are untainted by political bias. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. The numbers are what the numbers are, and if they can't count on what their staff is producing for them, they certainly can't count on the information that they're getting from the executive branch agencies, because we know that's going to be presented to us in a way that benefits whatever policy position the governor supports. So they are relying on us to take all the relevant and defensible data sources and provide them the best information that they have to be able to make the best decisions that they can. So I'm sure Jessica has experienced this. I know I experience it quite often, going into a member office and explaining to them, I know that you don't agree with what this number is, but that's what the number is. And we're not going to change the report to suit your own political needs. And they don't like it at that exact moment, but later on they will recognize that not knowing that the information that they're getting is untainted and as pure as it can be is ultimately more helpful for them than winning whatever political fight they're having at that moment. So that certainly applies to our auditing functions and the reviews of education finance here in Kentucky, that if the numbers are what they are, and then they may lead in certain policy directions, but everyone needs to agree those are the numbers, and you can make of them what you will.
Yeah, I like that a lot. There's value in getting an answer that you don't like from a source that you know is consistent and reliable. At some point, they're going to give you an answer that you do like too, and you can trust that that is also valid. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you both. Our last question comes from the chat, and it's going to be a much easier than the one I just asked you. So don't worry. And that is just for the people who are tuning in right now who are not as familiar with CSG. Both of you all are members and active members in our organization. The question asks, what is your favorite way to interact with the Council of State Governments as a CSG member?
Oh, do you want me to take it first?
Sure,
Jay
yeah.
just talked. Okay. Well, I really like interacting with CSG like at conferences. That's such a fun way to get to interact, but also just honestly every way possible. They're responsive via email, via phone call. Like I've established great relationships with at both the national level and the regional level for sure. So I think just knowing that they're a resource that can provide data and sometimes work through problems. Usually what you're dealing with in your own state isn't unique. Usually there's other states dealing with the same issues, and there's tools that could help you work through that. But I would just encourage all members to attend a conference, like either your regions or your national or both. I mean, they're just amazing.
So I am a longtime member of the Shared State Legislation Committee. And for better or worse, it always happens at the end of the conference. So sometimes we're tired when we get there, but the purpose of SSL is for a group of legislators from all over the country, from both chambers of both parties, to sit down and evaluate recently enacted legislation to determine what's new. So they are not asking the question, is it good? Is it bad? Does it accomplish anything? It's what is it new that General Assemblies are starting to struggle with? And I have found that to be helpful in two different ways throughout my career. Is one, an earlier version of myself enjoyed cribbing good legislation from other states that might not make it through the SSL process, but was a good idea, and I could take it home and look like I was smart because I'd found this great idea. But if you're a legislator and you want to understand what is the cutting edge, what is the tip of the spear for new policy that you're going to have to deal with, there's no better place than SSL, because it's the only place you're going to find a truly curated list of legislation that you should take a look at to think about crafting legislation for your own state. If I wanted a list of every bill that got introduced in every state about any particular issue, I could go to NCSL and they've got a database, but you don't know if it passed. Was it just a simple political statement? Was it seriously crafted legislation? Or there are other groups, if you want to be told what to pass, they would be more than happy to provide you model legislation, instructing you on what you should pass. But if you want to go to get a curated list from smart people who determine this is new and this is well written to begin the process of thinking through what that might look like in your state, there's no better place than the publication produced by the SSL committee every 2 years.
Yeah, well, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Thank you, Jessica and Jay. If you want to take both of their pieces of advice, both go to a CSG meeting and see SSL in action, which is I think Jay's using very polite language here. It can be fiery. It's a very spirited conversation on very good legislation, and not all of it passes. So if you want to see that, you should come to our December meeting, which will be in Chicago this year in early December. But it looks like that is all the time that we have for this webinar today. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jessica, for sharing your invaluable insights. I think that this conversation is one that I hope continues to be had among state legislators across the country, especially as the American public gets more partisan. We need to understand the value of having a nonpartisan resource to help people on both sides of the aisle do the very best governance work that they can do. So I am happy to be associated with you both, and very, very impressed with the work that you do in your respective states. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we close, I want to remind everyone that this is just one of a series of webinars that we're going to do over the next couple of weeks to help support new legislators. So our next session will be entitled How to Quickly Establish a Good Relationship with Leadership. And whether you're interested in securing a key committee assignment or just ensuring that your bills get hearings, building those effective relationships with legislative leadership is going to be critical to your success. So at CSG, we've assembled an outstanding panel of other Toll alumni who currently serve in leadership positions within their states, and they're going to share their firsthand experience and insights on how you can position yourself to be that good sort of friend to the people in leadership, and then hopefully be able to rise to those sort of positions yourself if that's what you want to do. So they'll offer practical strategies that work across the aisle. And that conversation is going to take place next Friday, March 14th at the same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. We look forward to seeing you there. But in the meantime, be well. Thank you, everyone.